Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to another show of Feast of Films Theatre. Today starring Matthew Black and Ethan R. Hill. There, that's the intro.
Oh, yeah. Classic. Classic.
Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films, another special episode of A Feast of Films. We are on Star Wars Episode 4.
Woot.
I'm Ethan R. Hill, and with me, as always, is...
Matt Black, what's going on, my fellow movie fans? What's going on?
We got to watch something good this time, Matt. We got to watch something good and enjoyable.
Something excellent.
Unless your opinion has changed suddenly and you're going to be like, no, this one was the worst.
This is the worst Star Wars movie. Episode 2 is even better than this movie. No,
Well,
definitely not. No, definitely not.
Which version did you watch?
Of episode 2?
Episode 4.
Episode 4. I was like, what
Yeah,
do you mean
how did
what
you...
version? Oh, episode 4. Yeah, no, I got you. No, I got the one that's on like Disney Plus right now.
Oh, so you watched the McClunky edition.
I have like the DVD version of like maybe one before that. But
Okay.
I don't know. It's easy when like Disney Plus is right there. And I have to go don't have to go looking for like the DVDs and stuff. The DVDs. But yeah. And I think that's maybe like one point we can talk about too, because like the newer versions sometimes there's things in there that just bug me to no end. Like it's
McClunky?
like, well, clunky is one word for it. Then there's other things that are just like,
No.
why?
Matt, don't you know about that? Where they added a line to Greedo for the Disney Plus ones.
Oh, did they? I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
So
didn't even notice.
in the scene with Han Solo and Greedo,
Yeah.
they added an extra line. It's not dubbed, but he just like it's a weird thing where they just added him saying McClunky to Han, and I don't remember the full context to it, but apparently that was George Lucas's final change that he made after the Blu-rays had come out, which is what we watched,
Yeah.
but before he sold it to Disney. So the guy was changing it up until he sold them.
It's so, like the straight, like, okay, here's the thing. I get it. Like, an artist piece of art sometimes never feels finished, right? Like, you want to do things to, like, really create your vision, everything that he wanted to create. And obviously, because the tech at the time was so far behind where we're at now. But it's so weird because it's like they didn't even use, when they were redoing it, they didn't even use good tech. They used, like, old stuff, and it looked like trash so much of the time. But anyway, that's beside the point.
And then they never touched up
Like
those
they never
ones.
touched up the one. They never went back and retouched up the bad CGI that they did put in there. But yeah, like it's so weird to me how he changed, like what he changed. You know what I mean? Because like some of the things he changes, it's not like
It's
a
super-
technical issue. That's not like a main story beat or something that you couldn't do at the time. Like to add
Inconsequential.
McClunky in there. What was the purpose of that? Like, did that truly just complete your vision? You're like, this is almost perfect. We just need a McClunky. Then we're good. Then we're good. Like, I don't understand
that's-
that. I don't
Well,
understand
most of it's superficial background stuff.
Well, yeah,
And
that's
actually,
what I'm saying.
it led to a really interesting debate. Is putting it nicely. It was a bit of an argument in our household about what is and what isn't, and like, because like for me, the stormtroopers with the dewbacks right at the beginning.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. I like that. That's been in there for a while. The dewbacks were like always there, just like in the far distance originally. Like they were just little like stop motion figures way in the back.
Yeah.
And then they added the more CG ones, and I'm fine with that. And the CG doesn't look terrible on them, especially when you look at the time that they came out, which was 97. So like,
Yeah, something like that.
but then you get to the stuff where it's Mos Eisley. And all that CG, all like the busy town stuff, that was added well after 97.
episode 1.
Yeah, so it was trying to make it,
So,
was trying to match it up to the prequels.
yeah, because some of it was literally like episode 1 type shots. that were in there.
And it doesn't feel
No,
it doesn't feel like Star Wars. Like it feel
yeah. Well, it's not necessarily that it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It just looks like trash. Like just from a filmmaker's like point of view,
Yeah.
it looks really bad. And it's like if your car door fell off and then you're like, I'm just gonna put on a big steel plate and bolt this bad boy on the side, like, and not paint it or anything. I'm just gonna plunk this thing in here. That's kind of what they did. Like they just took like this raw footage of Tatooine and like these different little aspects from a whole like different movie and just like plunk them in there, but like it never made sense and it doesn't actually fit with like what the aesthetic was when they were filming the actual movie. Like it doesn't match.
Well, like the shots where there's like the awkward like giant creatures walking in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's
doesn't make any sense.
That's my like biggest pet peeve with the new one. It honestly drives me nuts. Like when they get up to like the these are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah.
Stop post,
and you
like
just have that
big
thing
just
going in front.
walks in front, and it's like this really blurry, bad CGI butt of a creature, and you're like, just, why would you put that in there? What was like? You're actually blocking the scene. This doesn't even make sense.
Well, and that's where you gotta like again, you gotta ask yourself like, what was he thinking, and like why couldn't you touch up the CG more? Like
why? Yeah, why couldn't we
especially
get that remastered or something? Or
in this day and age, well, like number one, like that's a big other question too. Why haven't they remastered the original ones? And that's the reason is George Lucas doesn't want them to remaster the original ones, and I think that was even in his contracts with Disney when they bought it.
Yeah, I heard something along those lines.
They couldn't remaster and release those, which I think again is silly because like why not just have them out there? But you have all this money and this technology, you couldn't update the CG again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even that scene, the scene with Jabba is a point of contention for a lot of people, and I don't hate it because I think it's fun, but at the same time it's pointless because it just repeats a lot of the same information.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, well, I thought we were going to talk about when we got there, but we can talk about it now. Because it's exactly the same conversation he has with Greedo, just again. And like, while it's kind of a cool scene because Jabba's there, it's again totally pointless. And Jabba's CG looks completely different from Episode 6. Also, Jabba the Hutt clearly was never in that scene designed to be a Hutt, and he was still a human, right? When they filmed that scene, like
right?
that was the concept of the idea of that character before he was the slug thing. Because like Han Solo even references like how he's a person. Like I can't remember exactly what the line was.
Oh, he calls him a wonderful human being
or something. And it's like you're clearly the furthest thing from. But
I love that joke because it's like he almost says it like it's an insult, right? So like to me, knowing that it's a slug, or like seeing Jabba as a slug, and the fact that like Han's like you're a wonderful human being, and like you can read that with Han as being kind of like a backhanded compliment, right? Where it's like it's to Jabba that would be an insult.
I think I think that's a little. I think that's bending it though, right?
Well,
like that's clearly bending it around like what we're seeing to make it work, but it doesn't actually like fit there, right? It's like putting a circle piece into like a square hole. It's like you can get it in there, but it's like it's not exactly meant to go in there.
Well, because you can call someone a wonderful human being sarcastically when they are a human. It just, and I think that's what the line was intended when it was a human thing.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
When he was a human, he was calling him a human being, but he was calling him wonderful sarcastically.
Yeah, it was.
But then, as soon as you have the context of him being a slug alien, then it's an extra added layer of sarcasm. Like it's double the layers. But again, that's all in retrospect of what Episode 6 was.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm pretty sure they only added that scene in to basically explain to new audiences for Episode 1 who Jabba the Hutt was.
Yeah, maybe.
Like that's all I could think of. Like, and it's to give him more context.
Or
it
just
doesn't
like or just to like put the scene. He just really wanted the scene in the film, but then
they've updated the CG once on him because have you seen like the first pass on that CG?
No, I don't think so. Or I don't remember it anyway.
So the first time they released the CG, like, it is horrendous. It is horrible. And then they fixed it to what it is now, but even then, like, it's still really rough. And like the other question too is like with technology now, because one of the big things that always bugs me is Harrison Ford's eye line, because he's not actually looking at Jabba's eyes; he's looking at Jabba's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was just thinking about this now, I'm like, technically, I know this is really infringing on like I don't like this territory. I don't like the idea of it, but you could totally digitally change his eye line and where his head is looking. You could totally do that. I don't like that because I think that's altering an actor's performance and
Yeah.
changing it, but digitally you could pull that off and actually make the scene look good. But again, the question is there a purpose to that scene?
Mm-hmm.
And like overall, like I think the other problem I have just in general with the movie now is a lot of the CG stuff that a lot of the CG ships don't look as good as the practical ones do. So when you have shots intercut of like a practical ship and a CG ship, like the X-Wings come to mind,
Yeah.
it just looks, and I know it looked great when it came out, but well, I guess that's a question to you is like do you feel like they should update the CG considering when they added the CG that's when it like
Well, like here's the thing, right? If you're gonna keep the CG in there, make it look good, right? Like at the end of the day, if you're gonna keep the CG in there, make it look good. You went back to like it'd be different if this was a film that's never gone back to and updated and added a whole bunch of stuff, right? Because it's not like
Okay,
you're gonna
yeah.
go back to Star Wars Episode 1 and completely redo the CGI in that, right? Like you're not gonna do that. Or Star Wars Episode 2 and go redo the CGI because those movies just
as much
are
as we
they
want
are.
them to.
Yeah, well, sure, as much as they are rusty, but generally it's not a practice to go back in and update movies because you'd be updating movies forever. You would never make new movies like CGI studios and stuff like animation studios would constantly be spending their time updating old CGI. So that's not something you generally do. But if you're already talking about movies that you've gone back to not once,
and
not
and
twice,
fixed how many
multiple
times.
times and added new different things, well at that point you might as well go back in and just fix the CGI. I mean, or take it out completely. Like just get rid of some of that extra stuff. Just do like a classic cut.
Well, it's like, and honestly, some of the changes in like the later films, like making the Ewoks blink, that's a subtle enough thing that I don't really care
Yeah,
that he
not a
added
big
that.
deal. Yeah.
And I don't think it enhances it too much, but it doesn't take away. Like it's
And it
just
doesn't like
it's
it doesn't ruin your immersion of it, right? Like it's not something you're like, whoa, what they blinked now? Movie ruined, man. Like that's not what people are doing.
I know it's jumping ahead 2 movies, but the beak added to the Sarlacc pit has always bugged
Oh
me.
yeah, that's pretty bad too. That's a bad
And
thing.
I don't understand the design. I don't understand why it needed a beak. Because like it's almost to me, it's more terrifying that it's just a gigantic pit.
Like just a gigantic gut mouth pit with tentacles coming out of it. Agreed.
Let's be honest, it was just to add the extra. No, because I was gonna say the burp joke, but the burp joke is the same thing where it just shows the side of it shudder.
Yeah, exactly. Like
That's-
that doesn't change. Yeah, no. Like there's just things like throughout that whole trilogy, and I'm sure we'll keep talking about them as we go, because they are points of contention, and they are points where it's like, did this actually improve the viewing experience or not? Like for me, some things are immersion breaking. Like some things just take you out of the movie because it's so blatantly CGI or so blatantly not meant to be there or doesn't quite fit. And that's kind of like the Mos Eisley CGI. The rest of the film, there's not too many parts in the rest of A New Hope that really stand out and bug me, but it is those Mos Eisley moments. I'm like, just why? Why? And as soon as something takes you out of the movie, like you have to get yourself back in, which I guess with Star Wars isn't that tough, but the biggest tragedy though of all the changes is changing the ending song for episode 6. That's the biggest tragedy.
You prefer Yub Yub?
Oh, yub nub, yep. Yub nub.
See it.
I love that song, man. That was like
See, and I don't.
when I watched it back in the day, that was like my favorite part of episode 6. I was like, man, I love this song. These little guys dancing around, like it just dun 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 dun. It was great. And then like I remember watching like the version and it was different, and I was like, what in the Sam Hell? Wasn't this a different song? Like I was so confused before I realized that the whole films had been like changed. I was still young enough where I didn't really recognize that. I didn't know you go back in and change movies, or they did that. Because again, it's not a thing people just generally do, except Star Wars. But yeah, man, I was totally bummed out when Wubnub was gone.
The one that messes me up is like it's the same scene, but it's when they added in all the extra
Planets?
shots of the other planets, and I'm like,
Yeah, that didn't bug
okay,
me.
but
That
why?
didn't bug me so much. I mean,
like, how do they
why?
know?
It just showed like, oh, celebration across the galaxy. It just widened the scale a bit, I guess, of the celebration.
But how do they know?
Well, I don't know. It's just shots of different people celebrating, probably when they found out. Well,
It's edited
actually,
together to make
on
it
The
look like it's all this.
Mandalorian, episode 1 there, right? They had like the little video and showed the Death Star blowing up. Then all those dudes showed up to like shoot everyone in the town. So it's like, I don't know. They got their news pretty quick around the galaxy, I guess. Palpatine was
Live streaming
probably
it.
Yeah, Palpatine was probably
doing a live stream.
broadcasting it. The end of the rebellion.
Watch
Live on YouTube. Subscribe. Leave a like down below.
Watch me annihilate all.
The rebels are going down.
That's like it's again, like I don't think the changes are necessarily inherently wrong. It just at some point, at what point's gonna be enough? And like as you said, to bring it back, McClunky is something that did not need to be added. Like
Yeah, like what's the purpose of that? I don't know. Is that like the last brushstroke? Because that was that was like that McClunky is one of those things where you're like painting or drawing or doing some art, and you put like the last brushstroke on there, but it actually ruins the picture because it was like perfect, and you just added one little thing that actually just ruins everything. That's what McClunky was. It was just like that one brushstroke too far where it was just like, this is so unnecessary. Well, it doesn't ruin the whole movie. It's just like, why, man? Like, it's just, you could, like, Control-Alt-Delete, man. Like, just get rid of that piece right there. Control-Z.
No, exactly.
Undo. Like, just take it out. Why is it there?
Stay on target.
Well, and that
Stay on target.
And that's part 2. Like when you're making a film, the editing process is supposed to hurt a bit, right? Like you're taking out things that you really want in the film, but the film doesn't necessarily need, right? Whether you're talking about like keeping within a time limit or even just for like the flow and balance of the story. And the things they added back into this movie, including things like McClunky, it's just one of those things where it's like that's an overindulgence. You know what I mean? Like he obviously took those scenes out originally for a purpose. Like the scene with Jabba, he took it out for a reason. Why? Because he had the scene with Greedo in the first place and didn't need this other scene because it's exactly the same scene with a different character. They talk about the exact same stuff, give you the same exact information. There's nothing really unique about it other than it's Jabba the Hutt. So there was a reason he cut it out in the first place. And that made sense. So to go back in and like add these different things in there, you're kind of bloating your movie without it actually being beneficial. There's so many things in there. While they don't ruin the movie, they don't also add to the movie or make it better.
Well, and that's where things for me like the Snyder cut make me nervous for films going forward. Because it feels like we're gonna end up becoming that, like that's gonna just become a norm of just having people get to redo things if something is received poorly. You're gonna get to like, oh no, but that wasn't my actual vision. Don't worry, guys. Here's the real thing, and like, it's just gonna end up being.
I don't know if
like,
that'll actually like fly that much. I think it works. I think it works because like the fan protest and like how many people really want this thing to happen. But on the other hand, it is a unique situation, right? Where, uh, Zack Snyder got kicked off the project while he had other things in his life that were going on as well. And replaced, halfway, they'd already filmed the majority of the movie at that point.
Well, and
So it
apparently
was a
his
completely
cut is.
well,
It's coming out and saying his cut
like
is
4 hours, and it's like they've captured totally new footage. Like there's different characters getting added in now, so it's not even like the same like movie anymore. Like it's gonna be this whole big expanded thing, and like I think it's just
Yeah,
it's one of
I don't
those
buy
things.
it.
It's one of those things where it's like hype for the fans. I think at the end of the day, I don't think it'll be
But I
like
think it's.
canon unless they
I
decide
think
it's
it depends
canon,
on how well it's. It depends on how well it's received,
depending which one they'll decide is canon. Yeah,
and
maybe.
also it's apparently 4 hours long, but like the $70 million that were put toward reshoots are going towards 4 minutes of reshoots. He's now saying that the entire movie was basically already shot from before, so they're just getting 4 minutes worth of reshoots.
No, they're doing more than that.
That's the last thing I heard on it was him saying that it was only 4 minutes long, like 4 minutes of reshoots.
No, they're doing more reshoots than that, and they're adding like new footage, and then there's stuff that like obviously was completely edited out of Joss Whedon's version that is going to be added in there as well. Because they're getting new stuff like Joker, Deathstroke's going to be in there. How big of a part they play? Probably very minimal. Maybe that's part of the 4 minutes. I don't know, but like at the end of the day, it's just I think that's just a very unique situation, and I don't think it would warrant it to become. I think it's an exception to the rule. Let me just say it that way. I think it's an exception to the rule, and it will not become the standard, because I just don't think there's any call for it. I I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see is the best way I can put it because
I just
stranger things have happened.
yeah, Hollywood's a weird place. Honestly, if they think they'll make more money off it, maybe, but who knows?
You know where a good change was made in Star Wars? When he enhanced the planets. When he actually like went in cuz like all the planets used to just be completely washed out and just not look like the way they do.
Mm.
And then he went in and he made them look like planets. Like, and I love that because that just enhances the experience.
Yeah.
So that I'm fine with. Because now to bring it all the way back around to the beginning of the movie, Matt, as opposed to jumping halfway into it.
Well,
that
we
opening
probably
shot
jumped like
is-
a quarter of the way in.
That opening shot.
I think we
though-
usually start with technical discussions anyway, don't we?
Oh, most of the time, yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, I forgot to ask, did you catch Rogue One at the beginning of this movie? They condensed 2.5 hours into 30 seconds, Matt.
What's your point?
Rogue One didn't need to happen. That's my point. But we'll get to that on a different video.
I would agree.
But, dude, I think my main point at the end of the day is just that opening shot. That very first image after the crawl. When it just pans down, and you see the planets, and then immediately it just throws you in
Yep.
to this space chase. To this day, I get goosebumps. Just even thinking about it.
Well, that's
I
like
get
your
goosebumps. And the effects look amazing on it. The effects still hold up on it. They didn't add anything. They didn't speed it up. They didn't add more CG explosions. That's what it's always been. And it's that sound design of the blockade runner, then just like the and then like the big rumble of the the Star Destroyer.
yeah.
And it just that's how I know I'm in Star Wars. That's what does it for me. That's the moment. Like I think why I love Episode 4 as much as I do.
Well, I think that's like
It
the
has, to
moment
me,
for
the best opening.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like I think that's the moment for everyone, right? Like that was such an impactful hook. Not just in the 70s, but all the way up till now, because it's just a great way to start a film. You're starting off with a bang, but just like the camera work in the shot there, though, is just implies the gravity of the Star Destroyer, and it brings you into like this whole new universe that's familiar, but yet completely different and exciting.
Well, because like you get that moment where you see, oh look, it's a big, it's a big spaceship flies by,
Yeah.
and then like, it's so much so like
Here's a
Spaceballs
bigger
took
spaceship.
well, and Spaceballs took the total piss out of it.
Oh
by,
yeah, that
like
was
taking
hilarious, man.
I want to say I timed it, and it is like it's a 2-minute shot of just this spaceship going.
Yeah,
Like it is ridiculous, but it's so, it's kind of, it's true in a less comedic sense. That's what that was. You got that sense of scale, and then like, what I love is so we get that sense of scale, and it isn't really until episode 6 where we get the scale of how big. Like, they gradually finally give us the scale of what the Death Star was, and we don't really get that in episode 4. Because, so we see how big a Star Destroyer is, and we're like, holy crap, that's pretty big. Then episode 5, we see the Star Destroyers, and we see how big a Super Star Destroyer is, and we're like, holy crap, it's even bigger than those guys. And then in episode 6, you see the Super Star Destroyer crash into the Death Star, the second Death Star, and there's not even a curvature
No,
to
it's just
the
flat.
Death Star.
Yeah.
It's flat because that's how big it is.
Yeah.
And I love that. I can't say it was an intentional decision or thought process, but like it adds so much scale to it, and it's terrifying. Like it's shocking, and just like when you think about how big those ships are. When you think about like the line Obi-Wan saying like, "Oh, that's no moon," like they're talking about it being a moon, and I think as people who haven't really been to the moon ever, we're like, "Oh, it's a moon, like it's like that big. It's just a little round dot in the sky."
Sure,
like that's like no, like that's huge, and the fact that they built that in 20 years.
Yep.
That's the other big question. Is it could they have built that in 20 years? Do you think they could have?
Probably. They're all like space tech guys. I'm sure they figured it out.
Well, I don't know what exactly space construction looks like. Like I gotta imagine it's harder than
Well, yeah, you would
regular
think so.
construction, but
You would think so. Well, the Death Star 2 is only like, the outer shell, like the whole shell of it was like only like what 3/4 complete. Like it was operational. Like they made sure the weapons freaking worked. But like
that's an American sensibility right there. They left the break rooms out. That's what they did.
Yeah. Where are the break rooms? Just throwing this space chute there, soldier.
You get no breaks here.
Red knife.
Well, you'll find the break rooms to be quite operational when your friends arrive.
Psych, there's none. Get your ass back to work. Redouble your efforts. Okay.
Do you think that it was ever a problem having the first characters you meet be C-3PO and R2-D2?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because they are, number one, like, integral to the plot. They're kind of like the...
Well, they're audience surrogates.
They're
Like
they're audience surrogates. Like, it's kind of what we, like, we follow them along on this adventure, and, like, all the characters that collect upon them kind of thing. Until, like, at the very end, it breaks away. But not even because R2's there, right? 3PO's back at the base, but,
Yeah.
But like R2 kind of also becomes like the MacGuffin that like everyone's like after, right? Like he's got the Death Star plans. Not necessarily like obviously he's in the possession of Luke and stuff, but like that's kind of what a lot of the film hinges on, this idea of the Death Star plans and getting them to the destination. So like he does play like R2 and 3PO more R2, but 3PO's there with him. They do play an integral part in the plot itself.
Well, specifically throughout 4, 5, and 6, they are, to me, they are definitely important narrators because they are with the main characters throughout.
Yeah.
Even when they're separated.
Yeah.
Like, because even in that final battle, 3PO is in the war room with Leia.
Yeah.
And R2's with Luke. Even when you get to episode 5, C3PO is in Cloud City, R2 is
with Luke.
Like, and the thing is, they're treated like characters in episodes 4, 5, and 6. And I feel like by the time you get to the prequels and then the sequels, they're just treated like props
the
and
sequels,
add-ons.
they weren't even a thing, right? Like, BB-8 was a thing, but the other two weren't
and
really
BB-8 was handled. BB-8 was handled great because he was a good, strong character. But then episode 1, 2, and 3,
especially like 3PO got like 3PO got
his
robbed.
writing,
Other than the original trilogy, like he got robbed in the prequels, he got robbed in the sequels. Like
his
there wasn't
writing
too much for him to do.
His writing has always been bad since episode 6 because the thing is, episode 6 he was written as a character, or episode 4, 5, and 6 he was written as a character. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 he was written as a comedy character. He was written as just like I'm gonna say a random line here.
Well, like not
and then
even
the same thing
like,
happened.
Not even that, because he barely had any screen time or arc to talk about, right? Like there is not, and not that droids really have character arcs that much. But like in episode 1, he was just like, he didn't even have a shell. You know what I mean? Like he was this like thing Anakin apparently was working on. Episode 2, he just comes in closer to like midpoint to the end.
They just take the droid away from this poor family.
Yes, they totally stole 3PO. They're like, just get in our ship here. We're just gonna go get ice cream. We'll be right back. He's like, oh right, that sounds jolly. And then they're like, psych,
wait, I don't need ice cream
here. Like, wait, this isn't where the ice cream parlor is. And then he doesn't have too much to do. Like on Geonosis, they're like, oh, swap his head, haha, funny, right? But like not really integral. And then episode 3, he's just like, I'm hanging out with the pregnant chick. Like him and Padme just totally
I'm
get,
super
like,
shiny.
You know what I mean? So yeah, he's definitely not as yeah, it's unfortunate.
Then,
like other than the original trilogies, 3PO gets the short end of the stick for sure.
Well, comes down to me how he is written. Whether his appearances are brief or not, it's even in what he says that just gets to me. Because if you go even to episode 7, and he like, when he first pops up, he's like, "Oh, General Solo, you probably don't recognize me because of my arm." Like,
and then it's like, why
is C-3PO dumb now? Like, did his intelligence just drop off? Is that what happened?
He needs a memory wipe, man. He's getting old.
Like,
he's been around since Anakin was a child. He's super old.
But like, that's where I think that's what makes 4, 5, and 6 super strong, though, is because every character has a purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and especially those two. Like, absolutely. Like, I love them in these movies because anything, like, they're not just saying things just to say. And they do say some funny things. I mean, R2 doesn't say much. He makes noises, but
he wishes.
3PO does say things. He does deliver important lines, but he is also comedic at points.
Yeah. But it's that Star Wars comedy that works, right? Like it makes sense to his character. Like all his lines make sense to his character. None of it's played off for just like ha-has. The things that are funny is because they're funny in that like they're situationally funny, right? Like how he's reacting to his situation or what he thinks is happening. They're not going out of the way or stretching it out of the way for him to say something stupid and hope that it makes you laugh. Like when he's losing his mind, he thinks they're getting crushed in the trash compactor. And he's like, oh no, we've lost them. You know, it's like, that's kind of funny, but that when like it's not like he's just saying a random line like, oh, guess they're pancakes now. You know what I'm like? You know what I mean? Like
instead he's
a natural reaction, and that reaction to it is funny because it's his character. That's exactly what he should be doing and what he would be doing.
Do you know what completely wrinkled my brain and like I couldn't get over this watch through? So number one, like so this is the thing. I've been watching Star Wars for 24 years. I've seen episode 4 probably at least once a year for 24 years, if not multiple times a year. I just picked up on the fact that when they're attacked by the Tusken Raider, that C-3PO falls off a cliff and screams.
Yeah.
I just thought that was part of the sound design. I thought that was just part of, like, dramatic, like, oh, this is the Tusken Raider making a noise.
Oh, okay.
But no, there's that whoa, whoa sound that happens during that scene when they're getting attacked. And that's 3PO screaming.
Yeah, as he gets pushed
as he's
over.
falling
He's
off,
like,
and he falls off a cliff, and that's why they have to go find him, and that's why his arm is busted off.
Like, yeah, completely gone.
Because he falls off a cliff. Because they get up to a high vantage point to spy on the sand people.
Yeah.
Like it's
It's not good.
and I didn't realize that. I had to go back and rewatch it. Like I had to stop it and go like, no, go back. Like what the heck was that? And like, I'm still having trouble getting over that because like. Again, I've been watching these movies. I've had the dialogue memorized. Like, how did I miss that? But at the same time, I love it because it's me seeing new things.
Yeah.
In this movie I've been watching for most of my
Still
life.
discovering new little elements, yeah.
Exactly. And it's like I think that happens like anytime I watch it, man. Anytime I watch it, I find something new to appreciate or new that it's like, oh, I never noticed that before. Mm. And this time it was C-3PO screaming as he falls to his death.
It's always a good thing. Like it's great that he can't die though. Like that's always good. But like, and it makes for a lot of entertainment because he has the like emotional reaction to death, but not actually dying though. You know what I mean? Like he like. When he gets blown up or scrapped and he's like, I would prefer not this happen, but I guess it happened anyway, you know?
Oh, no, stormtroopers here. I must warn the others.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, he's funny. I like 3PO. He's great.
Again, like,
and just totally underused in the prequels and even more underused in the sequels. Like, just... But, like, him and R2 were clearly underused in the sequels. Like, they're like, what'd you guys even do?
Well, that's, again, I can't think of any problems that I have with any of the characters that are in this movie. Like,
no,
again,
like,
added
the
scenes...
is on point. I mean, it's on point.
Minus some of the added scenes, but, like, as we discussed already, like...
Exactly.
Again, the writing wasn't bad for the Jabba scene, it was just repetitive. Right? It's just, we already heard that information. And it's exactly what you said. They were cutting it out because they knew they already gave that audience that information. They don't need to repeat it because it's not as important.
Yeah. And obviously the scene with Han Solo and Greedo is better. Like, if you had to pick one, you're going to pick the one with Han Solo and Greedo.
Oh, yeah. So what, do you even have an opinion on Han shooting first? Or is it just kind of like a, like, yeah, like
whatever
same.
version
Like, I've never
you're
understood...
watching, it changes, right? Like,
so, like, have you understood the big deal about that? Like, why does it matter?
It depends on, like, Han Solo's, like, character, right? Whether he's actually going to shoot this guy. And, like, people say in cold blood, but, like, either way he shoots him, it's self-defense. Because he's made it clear he's going to shoot Han Solo. But
that's
to, like,
the thing.
some
like,
people, it's kind of like a moral issue. Like, Han wouldn't shoot first. He would only shoot in self-defense. And it's like, but I feel like his character would shoot first. Like, if he felt like that was his only option to survive, you know? So... But like, to me, it's not a big issue. I'm like, either way is fine.
I've never understood, like, I understand the joke behind it when people, like, make the jokes about Han shooting first. I get that. Yeah. But, like, I've never understood the actual, like...
The people who are, like...
violent discussions that I've seen. Yeah, like, because that doesn't make sense to me. It's like, so if he did shoot first, so what? If he didn't shoot first, so what? Like, it doesn't change the story.
And if he shot
it doesn't
first,
change his character.
And if he shot first, and... Like, some people would say, oh, out of cold blood, but, you know, whatever. He was clearly, like, Greedo made it pretty clear he wasn't going to let him live. You know what I mean? Like,
the line is literally over my dead body.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Greedo's like, that's the idea.
Yeah,
like,
he made it pretty clear that one of them was going to die. But even if Han Solo shot first, that doesn't change his character. It just makes his arc more interesting, especially by the time you get to the end, because it's like here's this image of who this character is. Like he's a shoot first, like whatever. Now he's saving the galaxy with like Luke, and he's coming back. Like it actually like increases the difference between where the character started and where the character ends by the time he gets through the film to being a warrior.
I mean, arguably by episode 4, he is still a shoot first kind of guy because he shoots Darth Vader first. He doesn't give him a warning or anything. He just comes in there.
Yeah, but he didn't
pops him out of the sky.
Didn't shoot Darth Vader. He shot the TIE fighter, the other TIE fighter.
Oh right,
and the TIE fighter.
And then the other one panicked.
Yeah, the other TIE fighter like freaks out, like just doesn't keep it cool and like loses it.
And
ends up blowing himself up. Too. It was so stupid, but whatever.
Even if he didn't blow himself up, man, he'd be dead because
Darth Vader
regardless,
just,
if they both if they both got out of that, he'd be killed anyway.
Just
so
the
I'm just
Star
convinced
blows up is just him and Vader floating in space. He's like, oh well, that happened. So this is really awkward.
I'll be seeing you later, and he just flies off.
I would be peacing out so fast. I'd be like, oh boy, I better get moving. Damn it! I wish we just didn't blow up Alderaan. I guess they're on like Yavin now, so it doesn't matter.
Yavin.
Never mind. They're Yavin.
Okay, so this is jumping way, way, way ahead. This is jumping super, super far ahead, and I did find a plot hole in Star Wars, and it bugs me that it's
okay. It's
a plot hole. It's the only thing I can think of.
Hole.
So they're at a planet.
Yep.
What would happen if the planet didn't exist anymore?
What do you mean?
If you blew up the planet, so they're at Yavin.
Yeah.
And the rebels are on the moon of Yavin on the other side of the planet, right? So why didn't they just blow up the planet?
Because they didn't want to.
They have the capacity to blow up the planet. And if they blew up the planet, the moon would also be destroyed. And I don't think Yavin was a really, bumpin' planet. I don't think it had anything really going for it. I don't think there was a lot of resources on it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, couldn't they have just destroyed the planet and, beat the rebels before the rebels could fly to them and blow them up?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I'm bugged that I thought about this. I'm not happy that I thought about this.
But I mean,
I think it's.
I don't know. Unless
I think
the Empire too. They just don't want to be going around blowing up random planets. They want to blow up things with significant. I think it's partially their own ego, and to send a message at the same time. And also, it's just
it 100% is the
it's
hubris.
just to make the movie work, right? So there's something there.
Well, it's 100%.
Planets hiding behind.
It's a plot reason.
Yeah.
I will never deny it's a plot reason.
That planet is.
I understand.
Yavin is plot armor. It's literally plot armor.
I understand the functionality of the planet, and I understand story-wise why it's there. But when thinking about it logically, it's like,
wait,
okay, but
if we just blew up the planet, when the moon just get wiped out too, yeah.
It would either get vaporized by the explosion or just get launched into space, and you wouldn't be able to sustain life anymore.
Yeah.
And I think though the real answer is it does come down to hubris because it's the same thing as the exhaust port being there, and that's where I'm not gonna rag on Rogue One too much, but that's why I don't like Rogue One making the exhaust port an actual design flaw, because that doesn't make sense to me. Things have exhaust ports. Things need that's what your car is.
Mm.
Your car has an exhaust pipe so that the thing that keeps it running doesn't just overheat and explode.
Yeah.
It's something for things to escape from. That's why it's an exhaust port. So it wouldn't have a cover on it, and even if it did, all you'd need is one proton torpedo to hit and blow that covering open anyway.
Yeah.
And then, then you send in the second one. So really at the end of the day, it's not really a design flaw, it's just something where it's they don't really think much about it. The Empire wouldn't think much about it because, what are the odds that someone's gonna fly all the way down here through a trench that's dangerous?
Yeah.
Plus, it's littered with guns. Like we got turrets. Like
and
what more do we need?
And be able to hit such a small target.
Exactly. It's not unprotected or anything like that. So to me,
because they make it clear
the
too,
idea
like,
again.
Sorry, they make it clear in the film that like when they tell them the size of it, most of them are like, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? Like to hit something.
Luke's just like, ah.
Like, and Luke's like, "Man, I hit these things with my T-17 back home all the time, man. Womp rats and such." You know,
Hey
like,
guys, I was a
not-
sociopath. I just murdered.
I just murdered womp
small
rats all the
animals.
time.
Like for no reason.
And they're like,
just
because
say-
they're all just like, "Oh, what a bummer." They're like, "Oh no, there's no way." And Luke's like, "Man, I do this all the time. Could be in a bunch of babies." But like, Luke doesn't know he has the Force either, right? So
There's one guy in the back room just being like, "Oh, he's the guy who's gonna blow up this place. Oh my gosh, the ball's on him."
Like, so it just makes sense, like that. Like, not only are they gonna make it through there, what are the chances of someone being a good enough pilot to land that shot, right?
Well, then on top of it too, then Darth Vader gets in there, and he's like, "Okay, well they are getting kind of close, so all right, this is obviously a threat. Let me get a couple pilots. We're gonna go and take out these guys in the trench."
Yeah.
Like that part makes sense to me. Like that never bugged me, and I think it comes down to again hubris. It comes down to the idea that they knew and they just didn't care. They were like, it's protected enough, that's fine. And I guess I can apply the same logic to why they didn't just like go around why they went around the planet. It's like, well, we don't need to destroy an excess planet. We might as well just get a direct hit, just get them off the map. We got time, it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the idea.
Well, Tarkin's line again about the in our moment of triumph. Like,
Yeah, like it's just about having. It is about having like the moment, and like defeating your enemy, not just like blowing up a planet and being like, "Oh, now you guys are dead," but like actually landing that killing blow. Man, Tarkin is so awesome.
he's, and again, like it's. When I first watched it, I was kind of, well, not first. When I was older and I watched it, I always kind of wondered, like, with such how ridiculous the movie is, how they got people like Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing. And then I kind of got to, like, know what Peter Cushing was doing around that time and the kind of actor that he was. And he lived for that weird stuff because he was, like, in all the old Hammer horror movies and, like, all the weird, like, sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, he just loved doing that stuff, so him being in Star Wars made perfect sense. And he just enjoys it, but then apparently Alec Guinness was not a fan. He did not like being in Star Wars.
What? I thought he was. I thought he didn't like it like originally, and then came around when he actually like saw the film.
I want to say it could be, I want to say it's Alec Guinness. I want to say there's a famous story where, like, a guy asked for an autograph from him. And he said, "I'll give you an autograph if you never see the movie again."
Are you sure that wasn't Han Solo?
I am pretty sure that was Alec Guinness.
I don't know.
Like, and that's, and I
I cannot confirm or deny that.
At the end of the day, I mean, like, he's like Alec Guinness laid the groundwork for what Obi-Wan is.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But Ewan McGregor kind of just like perfected that character.
Yeah, he took what Alec Guinness already created and then made him younger and then fleshed it out more. And he had more time to flesh it out, right? Alec Guinness was in like one movie, he died, and then he got to be a ghost a couple times. Like, there wasn't actually that much for him to do in the like he had critical moments, but there wasn't like a ton for him to do in the trilogy.
From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
Well, it's like
when he got to be a whispering ghost.
I keep going back to like changes that they made because now we're talking about different characters too, and like the crate dragon sound.
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
The one where they changed it from like, "Hey, this sounds like a monster," to "It sounds like someone who's partying too much." Woo! College kids scatter.
It's like a bunch of woo girls in a limo. Woo!
Oh my gosh, run!
Yeah, no.
They'll be back, but in greater numbers.
I hate the new crate dragon sound. I'm like, that's stupid. Like, and
But then
again, that
they
goes back to the
remedied it
point.
in
It's
The
like, how did
Mandalorian.
that change actually make anything better? Wait, it doesn't. Like, why is it
Like,
in here? Why would you need to change that?
like logically,
Like, ugh.
if logically speaking, I understand the idea of wanting to make it more of a human sound, making it sound more like a person making a noise. But at the same time, that person has the Force. I'm pretty sure that's how the Force works. They can manipulate things a bit. And also, like, it hasn't been an issue for, like, because that change happened in, what, 2012?
Yeah, a while back. It was a pretty early change.
So, like, 35 years, it wasn't an issue? Or is that 45 years?
I don't know.
I don't know. It was an amount of years.
Math
It was
is
a long
tough.
enough time that that's one of those changes that didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just but it gives me a laugh now. So I mean, like, it's not exactly an entire waste. Like, it's not like I roll my eyes when it happens. I'm just like, oh my goodness, here it comes again. Here's the. And Obi-Wan is so racist against droids that he doesn't even remember what R2-D2 looks like. He's seen one astromech, they all look the same to him. I never owned a droid.
Oh yeah.
I went on multiple adventures with you, R2-D2, but I have no idea who you are.
Oh yeah, remember that time you screwed up that whole elevator situation? Yeah, you're dead to me now.
Yeah, that's what he's still mad about the
Yeah.
elevator. Well, Obi-Wan Kenobi is
R2,
not a master of a lot of things,
we
but
need to be going
he's the
up.
master of holding a grudge.
We need to be going up, R2.
Not down.
That's probably why he hates droids. He's just like, God damn it.
Oh, they gave him a lot of reason. Like, even if you think about it going back to episode 1 and just, like, the amount of droids he had to fight.
Yeah.
And then, like,
And then put the
progressively,
Clone
like,
Wars
the amount
on
of...
top of that. Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why there'd be a bit of prejudice towards droids. But again, like, towards R2, who's been nothing but a friend who...
He screwed up
goofed
the
up a
elevator
couple
that one
times.
time, though. So, you know, FR2.
He's mad at him for not stopping Anakin from turning evil.
Yeah.
You were with him on Mustafar and you did nothing.
Like, you were with him the whole time. You did nothing. You had one job, man. One job.
But he told me to stay with the car.
Stay with the ship.
Okay, I guess so if you say so, whatever.
Why didn't you just zap him?
What could possibly happen? And then so many things.
Oh boy. Going back to like the beginning real quick. I know we're just like jumping all over the place. This is a total like organizational mess. So don't expect timestamps because I wouldn't even know where to put them to begin with. But like I really just like we talked about the beginning, how the opening scene like with the ships. We talked about R2 and 3PO being like the first characters we interact with. But like there's so much more to that opening scene, right? It really kicks off like the whole story and everything that's going on. From Leia putting like the data pad, the Death Star plans into like R2 and sending them off on the ship or the escape pod to Tatooine. Like that's really like the inciting event. Like that's the event that kicks off like the whole adventure and the whole journey. And I think it was so powerful to lead so heavily with the villains. Because already you had like the stakes there. Already you could feel like the tension. And not only did you have like the ship there, but like when Darth Vader walks into the room, like you have that whole like Tantive 4 interior design where it's like white as hell, and you got this big dude in black rolling in. It was like that was a powerful moment, and we got to really understand Vader as a character within like those first few scenes. Like he's not a dude that F's around. Like he wants shit done. We didn't get to see the lightsaber, and we had no idea he had the Force at the time, but like that was such a really well done scene, and it already like gave us that beginning bits of tension throughout the story, and just like what kind of forces they're up against and how overwhelmed these heroes are, right? Because it's not like, and I think that's also one of the things that make this original trilogy so special, because it's not like they're this big army versus this big army. It's like there are these like rebels who barely got anything to their name versus like the whole galactic empire that's incredibly powerful. So I just thought it was just a really powerful opening scene, and I love how they really led with the villain. And like they didn't lead with their hero, like they didn't lead with Luke Skywalker. They led with their villain and created like the tension and trying to figure out how everything's going to come together through the rest of the film. And the way they gradually like rose the tension through the film, like whether they're torturing Leia, questioning Leia, you hear a bit more about like the Senate, and like you hear a bit more about like the power of the Death Star gradually through the film till you finally see it like destroy Alderaan. Then you're like, oh, this shit is for real. Which all leads up to like those climatic tension filled moments when, yeah, the Death Star is going around the planet getting its shot on Yavin 4. So I just think there's like so many great things they did with the villain, especially how they used him to like create that initial tension, and then like just it was a really strong build up all the way to that point. It wasn't like too much. It was just very like kind of drip feed, gradual till you got to actually see what was going on. I think that was
Well, even design
great.
wise,
Like just how this was structured was great.
design wise, having him look so drastically different from the stormtroopers, I think also helped.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because like as soon as he showed up, like the stormtrooper showed up, and everyone's like, "Holy crap!" Like this is like you, especially the design of them versus like the regular guys on
rebels,
the ship,
yeah.
like the rebels. Like you see those guys, and it's like, oh, these are all kind of like the faceless soldiers. These are kind of like when you hear Obi-Wan talk about, you know, them being really good marksmen and all that kind of stuff. You believe that because the only other time you've seen them
Is
at
the
the
ship,
very beginning,
yeah.
where they just mow everybody down.
Yeah, and after that they got really bad.
But I think having them established first as being a threat, and then you see their commander, and he's a threat, and he doesn't have to do anything.
No, like
Like
just his
these are guys who
presence
just
was...
like, well, and then being able to
Damn.
like, you know, single-handed lift a guy off the ground
Yeah.
and question him, like, and then but then you get Leia, who's just like, I'm gonna be sassy to this man for no good reason.
I'm on a diplomatic mission.
but you're part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her
Get
away.
out of here. You're Rebel Alliance and you're a traitor. Take her away. Yeah, it was just excellent.
And the movie would be a whole lot shorter if they just decided to blow up that one escape pod.
Yep. End of movie. Right there.
Don't worry, there's no life signs. There's nothing on there that could have no life signs.
There's nothing on there that's important. We're good, guys. We're good.
Even if she didn't put it on put the droids on it, like, she could have just taken the plans, put them on an escape pod, and just, like, jettisoned
Well, that's what they assumed, right? They're just like, they must be on the escape pod. Let's go get it. And then they're like,
Look,
shit,
they're
they're on the
droids.
move. Damn it. His job just got way harder, man.
Well, and again, the fact that they couldn't just identify the droids right away. The fact that they have no idea what these droids look like
At all,
or who they
yeah.
are. There's no logs. They're just random droids.
Yeah. And in Star Wars, droids are everywhere. Like, that would just be so painful. Ugh. But I guess follow the Jedi. Because you'll find the droids you're looking for. Or you won't, because then the Jedi will mind trick you. So never mind. Bad plan, guys. Bad plan.
And then cut off your arms and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that cantina scene has not gotten any less entertaining.
No, it hasn't. No. And like the real interesting part I found about that scene was like narratively, like how it was like all designed, like because you kind of have like your first like you kind of get to understand like Luke's home life in the world and like his everyday life, like as a moisture farmer, and you see droids, and like the weirdest thing you see are the Jawas, which aren't that weird. They're just like little dudes with hoods, and the Sand People, which are like people covered in like different cloths and rags. So like not extremely like strange, like nothing super weird. But once like the journey actually begins and Luke gets away from his like home and everything he's comfortable with and he's going out to this whole new world, that scene is also us going with Luke to that whole new world where we get into the cantina and you see, oh shit, man, not everyone's just like a bunch of people. Like there is weird aliens, like, and it just blows the door wide open on this whole galaxy of different species.
And then we proceed, to see only.
Impactful, man.
And then we proceed to just see white men for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like pretty much.
I mean, Chewbacca's there, I guess,
Yeah,
but like
exactly.
it's
but like
it's,
the Empire, right? Like Nazis.
well, and the rebels too. The rebels are pretty
Listen,
pretty standard.
There was not
too.
a lot of
Pretty
black people in the
standard-ish, so-
galaxy. Clearly, like there was Finn, Lando, Mace Windu. They must have been a very rare species. I don't know.
Not a lot of women either.
Well,
Like a small handful.
in prominent roles, I guess. It is. I guess it was a war thing.
No, like
but whatever.
Like they started adding. I want to say. I need to actually go back and look at the war room scene because I didn't notice any women in there.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
I want to say by episode 5 they did. By episode 5 they started to have more people.
Well, you probably just were
then
like,
we got
who's
Lando.
the cheapest people we can get for this?
Who's some random British guys?
Yeah, let's
Don't talk though. We need
let's
you to.
go. We just need you to look like you're doing something important, okay? Okay.
But you're 100% right though. That cantina scene is what launches you into the fact that the galaxy is bigger than just this one desert
Yeah.
planet.
Like it's your first look into like the galaxy of Star Wars and how much potential this universe has, and they fit it into like a bar scene, which I think is amazing. Like they just, and that's why it's such an impactful scene. Like that's why people, if you say the cantina scene, no one's like, do you mean the one from episode 2 or that one from episode 7? Which cantina scene are you talking about exactly? Like everyone knows when you say the cantina scene, you're talking about Star Wars episode 4 because it's just, it was that impactful. Like, yeah, the music, the strange creatures, and like I think that moment had, I don't want to say just as much impact as the opening of the movie, but I would say just the same impact, but for like a different reason, right? Like that opening was just to get you introduced to the battle and the struggle, the little rebels versus the giant empire. Like it's literally shown in the size of their ship, like the different sizes of the forces, like, you know, fighting in this universe. And like kind of setting up like that whole story, but to send you into that galaxy and get you introduced to like different characters and this idea that these are different alien species from all over the galaxy. I think that scene was just as impactful for that purpose of launching you into this whole new universe. So it's just, yeah, just I love that scene just for that reason. It's like it's such a creative way to show the galaxy, to show how vast this Star Wars universe is without actually having to go to every planet and be like, look, here's this type of planet with this type of alien. Here's a planet with this type of alien. It's like, nah, let's just put them all in this one bar and have them interact with each other and a bunch of weird things. Like, it just worked, man. It was excellent.
Well, it's also it's a cool scene too because it establishes how much Obi-Wan is someone not to be messed with too. Because at first you still think he's just kind of this kind of doddering old man, this kind of crazy guy.
Yeah.
And then someone tries to pick a fight, and what does he do? He messes them up pretty good.
Like in 10 seconds. Just takes him no time at all.
And it's the only time you ever see blood with a lightsaber.
Yep.
But I mean, like, that's fair. It's the why they should digitally remove that. That's what they
See,
can
now
do.
that's
Just
something
get
that
rid
would
of the
make
blood.
sense, and like have it smoking or something. Like there are things that they could
Nope,
do
that-
that would actually make sense, and that, but they're just like, nah, man, McCrunchy or whatever the hell he said.
McCrunchy.
Let's just throw that in there. Same damn scene, but like, nah, we're gonna keep the blood, but like, you know, McCrunchy, man, throw that in there. I'm gonna call it McCrunchy now because I think that's way better. McCrunchy.
And more droid racism in that scene too.
Yep.
They don't serve those kind.
Don't serve your kind.
Those droids, they have to wait outside. Also, that's C-3PO and R2-D2's arc through this film is locking themselves in other rooms.
They do that a lot, yeah. That's true. Let's just go hide here and lock ourselves away while the other characters do stuff.
What are we supposed to do if something happens? Lock the doors and hope they don't have blasters.
Yeah. In the Death Star, it's like, they all have blasters. Oh, well. They did pretty good.
I always get the scene of them escaping from Tatooine mixed up with the scene of them escaping the Death Star. I always get them, like, blended together, where I think that they fight. I always, like, you know, when Luke and Han get in the turrets and stuff like that? I always for some reason, think that happens
when they're escaping
at the
Tatooine.
beginning. But no, that's not, it doesn't happen like that at all, because Leia's there. But my brain always like, oh yeah, here we go. Oh no,
wait, I still gotta wait another, like, hour and a half? Okay, cool.
No, it's fine. There's plenty of good stuff in there.
Of course there is.
So, I guess, how do you feel about the ancient religion talk that continuously happens throughout this movie by people who would have been around?
It is, I think that is, yeah, you're talking about the Jedi and the Force. And that is one of the most puzzling things in the Star Wars universe, period. Like, it's not even just exclusive to this film. It's just one of those things where it's like, literally the Jedi were alive like 20 years ago. They had a massive order that had been around for hundreds of thousands of years. And like in 20 years, everyone's like, Jedi who? What's the like, Force again? Everybody.
Someone like Han.
It's like amnesia.
Someone like Han I could kind of get, because he would have been about 10, and he would have, like, he just may have never encountered a Jedi. He might have just heard stories, and that was it. Because he's like, it's all just hokey stuff that I never experienced. Yeah. But, like, then you have, like, military guys who would have been in their 20s to 30s.
Who probably served with Jedi. Talking. Like, some of them probably served with Jedi in the Clone Wars.
And they're all talking, like, they probably were around. They probably knew these people, and they just, I don't know, man. Like, it bugs me. That bugs me more than anything. Like, the one guy who tries to call out Darth Vader on his sorcerer's ways, and it's like, where have you been?
Like, what were you doing again, homie? Like, what's going on here? Yeah, no, it's kind of one of those things, and I think there's a lot of like possible, not solutions, but like explanations. Number one, the Star Wars galaxy is a galaxy. I'm sure the Jedi didn't get everywhere and meet every person, so that's very true. The fact that their organization has been around though for like the thousands of years prior to that doesn't really not explain it, because it's like majority of people who you meet in the Star Wars universe, like pre the original trilogy, a lot of them just like they know of Jedi or they heard of Jedi. It's like this intergalactic, peacekeeping police force or whatever they are.
Like people, Watto knows what a Jedi is.
Exactly. Like, so like a lot of people know what Jedi are. I think it has also something to do with the Empire itself and its use of information as number one, branding them as traitors, because it's kind of what he did, but then also kind of probably erasing a lot of knowledge of the existence of the Jedi in the first place.
Well, I was just thinking about that too. Like, their propaganda machine probably was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think that would have a big part on it for anyone who's like younger, Luke's age and a little bit older.
I mean, again, even like we discussed it a little earlier before the podcast, but even like the amount of people who are like flat earthers now.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, the Earth hasn't been flat for like quite a long time. Like, what do you mean flat? Like, and that could possibly, especially if you look at the type of government that it is. If that's what they're indoctrinated in, the Jedi were just like a bunch of like crazy church going people who decided to
Crazy
get some
churchers.
lightsabers. Yeah, like that's very possibly what it was. So just a bit of the right propaganda.
Yeah, and then erasing all you can. Like, and I think that was kind of like interesting even in like Rogue One, right? That was one of the interesting elements that I found is like obviously the Empire were like trying to hide and take down any mention or reference to the Jedi. Like they harvested the crystals, but like they took down the statues and you know what I mean? Like and took down the temples and all that was left were like the few those two dudes there who were actually like pretty cool. Were the Guardians of the Wills? Is that who they were? I don't remember. I'd
I
have
don't
to
even
I'd have
know,
to
man.
rewatch that again. I haven't watched it for a long time. But I think like also the Empire not only with their propaganda, but also erased any physical evidence that they could find that the Jedi do like existed and what they were. So I think you're gonna have like a whole generation of people who don't know who the Jedi are, and that's fine. But yeah, there's a lot of people who really should know what the
A lot of
Jedi are.
old
Like, there's a
people.
lot of people who should know what the Jedi are and who they were. Maybe they think they're traitors, but they shouldn't like be confused of their existence. And I think that's another one of the just situations that comes from two totally different development times, right? From the original trilogy to the prequels. I think originally there clearly was meant to be a lot more of a bigger time gap between the where the prequels would have ended and where the original trilogy started.
Like there's a part of me that like almost wonders if the prequels might have intended to have the Jedi be a lot less than what they
Then
were.
what? Yeah,
Cuz they there weren't a lot of Jedi to begin with, but like there was enough that they had their own temple, like giant temple
on Coruscant,
in
and
on
they had it for,
Coruscant.
and they've been there for like I said, thousands of years. Like thousands of years, the Jedi have operated.
So like it's like to me it's like if it was like a small crack team of like maybe 50 of them,
Yeah,
I could understand as that would be more of a thing where people could just you could get rid of them. But like just the
that's an
reach of them
interesting thought.
again.
I never thought about that. Maybe the Jedi were
Well,
meant to
even
be like guardians of peace and justice, but like not a massive force, but more of a specialized force.
well, even when you hear
Interesting.
Obi-Wan talk about Anakin and him and how they fought in the Clone Wars and stuff like that, it wasn't like, yeah, us and a whole bunch of Jedi. It was like, yeah, the two of us.
Yeah. Interesting. Never thought of it that way. That very could well have been the idea at the time.
That's this is where I really, what would be really interesting, and I don't think they'd ever do it. I don't think Disney would ever mess with it, and I don't think Lucas would ever let it happen. You know how Marvel has the What If series?
Yeah.
I would love to see a Star Wars version of What Ifs. So you have the main canon stuff,
Yeah.
but then you have like these what ifs of like, oh, what if the Jedi only existed as like a group of commandos?
Mhm.
What if Anakin never fell to the dark side, or if Padme succeeded in getting him back? Like things like that, I think would be really interesting to see. I don't think Disney would ever do it, and that kind of makes me sad. It's just a thought I had right now, but like now I'm already sad about it.
You're like, we need a Star Wars what ifs.
Well, because that's those are some of my favorite comics. Those are like the DC Elseworlds. I love those things. I love there's the canon stuff that I like, but I always love the weird like but this isn't gonna
what
affect
if?
canon. But this is a really cool idea, and I think that's where like
Well, they're doing like
sorry,
the
it's a side
Disney Plus
tangent.
Marvel show what ifs too, eh?
Oh, I am so excited for
Whenever
that. I
that
am
eventually comes out, whenever anything comes out, but that would be an interesting way to do the
2021, I
Star
think.
Wars one, and not a comic book, but like just in like an animated series.
Yeah, I think if the Marvel one does well enough, they should expand that.
Yeah.
But on a side rant, that's kind of what bugs me with like Batman's The Dark Knight Returns. Everyone treated that and treats that like it's gospel canon for Batman, but it
it's
really
not.
isn't.
Yeah.
It's just its own kind of side thing that some guy wrote, and then everyone's like, "No, but it's true," and it's like, okay, guys. And that's the problem is as soon as that's the problem with messing with canon or doing something where it doesn't have that title of Elseworld or What If or anything like that. because then people latch on to stuff that they really like, and they're like, "Ooh, I like this idea better than what was originally happening. We should change
That's
it."
canon now.
That's why a lot of people like Rogue One, because there's a lot of things that they changed in Rogue One that kind of changes the canon of Episode 4 that people like. And there's things I don't like, but again, we'll get to that on a different video.
I also find it strange too. Like I know we're talking about the original trilogy, like in the sequel trilogy, especially like Rise of Skywalker. Again, nobody knows what Jedi are at that time period either, which makes more sense because the Jedi obviously under Luke Skywalker would have been a very much smaller organization. So it would make sense if no one like really heard of them or got in contact with them. But like everyone and their freaking dog knows about the Sith. Like everybody and their dog knows about the Sith. That's the weirdest part to me. It's like you forgot about the Jedi, who were like a giant organization for thousands of years, but you forgot about the Sith, who've been like hiding out most of the time in the shadows. And like, even if you knew Emperor Palpatine, you probably weren't like, he's a Sith. Like, you would just have he would just be Emperor Palpatine, right? Like, they never said the word Sith in the original trilogy. Like, he was not a Sith back then. So it's just funny that everybody knows in the galaxy. Everyone knows Sith, and that, like, oh, this dagger is an ancient Sith blade. And, like, you go talk to some random person on a planet, they're like, oh, yeah, we can't, we got this little guy, he can figure this out. 3PO's programmed with Sith. Like, what? What do you mean he's programmed to, like, read Sith? Get out of here. So it's just a funny thing then. That was one of the things in Rise of Skywalker that made me laugh. It's like, no one knows what Jedi is, but everyone's like, oh, yeah, the Sith. Yeah, we know all about the Sith. Like, what are you talking about? Star Wars.
Well, that's kind of, it's the weird lack of continuity, I guess, when it comes to Star Wars, when it comes to the Jedi and the Sith. There's no clear timeline as to people's memories, I guess. Yeah. And I think you hit it the nail on the head though when you said the galaxy. But again, then in your defense, sorry, now I'm arguing with you and myself at the same time about points you already made. But like 100%, the galaxy argument makes sense for the Jedi being forgotten. But then why the heck are the Sith remembered?
Like, why would you remember the Sith? Yeah.
Like, there's especially, again, Palpatine rose in secret. The Jedi barely knew what the Sith were, because they're like, the Sith haven't been around for millennia. Whatever, like, what are you talking
exactly.
about?
And it's not like Emperor Palpatine was like, now I am Sith. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't announce to the galaxy that he's a Sith, you know? Like, he kept his force powers very much under wraps. But
unless the Sith made that much of an impression on, like, the places that they were, but I don't think so.
But no more than the Jedi would, right? Like, it's just one of those funny things, and it's kind of, you got to take each trilogy like within its own like timeline and like know that there are vague connections to the other trilogies, but not quite. Like, it's just a puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit, but it's good enough. Like, it's close enough, you know? It just doesn't quite fit in there. That's kind of what it is, but yeah, no, the memories of people in the galaxy have always been like a point of conversation and discussion and debate, because there is no real consistent right answer. Like, you can put up different arguments for different things, but then one little point in this film or one point in that film will prove that point wrong, but it makes sense for everything else. But, you know, and that happens all the time. Like, I think it's just one of those things we have to accept that it's going to be consistently inconsistent. That's what it is until we get to a point where, like, again, Jedi are everywhere, but
this is the way.
This is the way, man. Like, yeah, even I guess it was even the Mandalorian. A lot of people are like, "What were the Jedi?" Even the Mandalorian himself was like, "What are Jedi?" It's like, bro, you were like a kid during the Clone Wars. It's like the Jedi were the main people fighting the clones, like, or fighting the droids. Like, I feel like you should, of all people, should know what a Jedi is. Who are these sorcerers? These Jedi? They didn't even use Jedi. Wait, they used it once, I think. Or did they?
Apparently he was.
I can't remember in season
Well,
1. They have used it in season 2. He does say Jedi straight out. But
they say it at the end of season 1.
did she call him Jedi? Okay.
Yeah. Sorcerers, the Jedi, yeah.
Like, yeah, she called like an army of sorcerers or whatever.
She calls them the Jedi because then he calls them the Jedi because that's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
But also he was indoctrinated into like essentially a cult apparently at a young age too. So there's a chance that he would just never.
Oh yeah, like forget about
connection.
that. Yeah. For sure.
Um,
And clearly it was the Mandalorians who came in and destroyed the droids on his planet, so
I know it's gonna make like. Maybe this question will make no sense. Have you ever wanted to try and learn that weird chess game that's on the Falcon?
no.
Never? It never appealed to you, seeing that you're never like, holographic.
I like
kinda
the
weird
idea
thing.
of it, but I'm not committed to like
I just want to know what the rules are.
oh man, I'm sure there's a game out there. Probably not holographic, but I'm sure there's a Falcon chess out there.
I don't know. The thing is, I've been always curious about it, but I've never actually like looked into it because it's like, I just accept that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm like, this looks confusing and silly, therefore it can't clearly exist in the real world. It's like Parks and Recs has the. Have you watched Parks and Recs or no?
No. I've seen like
So
an
Parks and
episode
Rec
here or
ha-
there, but
There's one of the characters, Ben. He gets laid off and he goes crazy and creates a board game.
okay.
Called the Cones of Dunshire, and it's like this really elaborate, over the top role playing board game thing. And like it comes back throughout as a running joke where like a bunch of nerds latched onto this game. And basically that's another one where it's like I'd love to play it. There's a lot of fictional games I see like on TV where I'm like, I'd love to play this game, but it doesn't exist, and I feel if it did exist, it would be far too complicated and make no sense for me to actually enjoy it.
No, I hear that. Sometimes games are just like sometimes games are tough.
There's just sometimes it's too many rules to the game. Just give me a straightforward Monopoly. Even then, Monopoly has so many friggin' rules.
Call it a day. One of the things that I always find like really interesting too, especially when it's like the original trilogy, like especially I guess compared to nowadays, because there's so many discussions how Daisy Ridley's character Rey is a Mary Sue, right? Like she's just perfect. Like she just has mastered the Force and she's so powerful and she's had like next to no training and blah 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 blah. Which like parts of it are true. Some of it's exaggerated, but like some of it's fair. Like she is the only main character who has not lost a limb. You know what I mean? Like nothing really terrible has happened to her in that kind of that kind of situation. She didn't kill Snoke though either, right? Like, and she also made pretty bad decisions at a couple points in The Last Jedi and blah blah blah. What else? But anyway, she's
Everyone
not
does
100% perfect. Like, she's not like Dominic Toretto in The Fast and the Furious, who's like the perfect Mary Sue, because it's like this grease monkey, but now he can take on like black ops soldiers and win. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that. All you need is conviction and a tire iron
And a
like,
family.
and family. Like and jumping
we've
to
discussed.
tanks. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm trying to remember. We've talked about how someone took Fast 7, that fight between him and Jason Statham with like the wrenches
and added
and
lightsabers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still I still love that because again, no context changes. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It is the same amazing, ridiculous fight, and I love it.
Like I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like the Fast films are incredibly entertaining. Like they're way more entertaining than they have any right to be, especially with the amount that there is. But that's kind of like more of a definition of a Mary Sue, right? Like he can just literally do anything, and he makes it. Rey is kind of similar, but like when you're looking at Luke Skywalker, though, especially like his Star Wars journey, it's like, man, he never had a lot of training before he decided he was a Jedi Knight. Like he never really trained that much. And we get that first taste of that obviously in the first film, right? Like the only training he really has in this film is training with Obi-Wan with the remotes.
But I even say he's less of a Mary Sue than Anakin is.
I'm not saying like
Anakin is
he's
like
no, Anakin wasn't a Mary Sue though.
if you compare, so I want you to compare out of the three of them, Anakin basically can do no wrong until he does what he needs to do that is wrong. Until it services his character.
But he does like wrong all the time. Like, and he's super whiny and annoying.
But that's the thing is like,
and he makes bad choices.
But he still, when he messes up, he doesn't mess up ever because he needs to, like, he doesn't mess up ever because it's natural that the character would make that decision. He messes up because it's how it services the plot. Again, it's him messing up in episode 1 when he gets in the ship and, whoa, I accidentally blew up this thing.
Okay, what about him fighting
gosh.
Dooku though? Like in episode 2.
In episode 2, he had to lose the arm. That's the only reason he messed up is because he had to.
He does not have to lose the arm.
He had.
He
no,
did
here's
not have to lose the arm.
Matt, here's the stupid thing. And I'm very upset by this. He didn't have to lose the arm, but he had to lose his right arm. He had to at least lose his right arm, because that's when Luke cuts off in episode 6, and he shows it's robotic. I'm pretty convinced.
Yes, but
Lucas
he lost
didn't
every other limb in
I don't
episode
think
3.
that Lucas had that figured out by the time they did episode 2. I think he's like, oh, and he's got to lose that arm, so that's what happens, and we wrote that in the script. And then by the time we got to episode 3,
they've mentioned that Vader is more machine than man, implying that he's been rebuilt.
That's my point, Matt.
Fully, like...
Matt, that's my point. I don't think they realized that until episode 3, and then they're like, oh wait, he has only one arm. We need to make him more machine than man. Cut them all off, light him on fire. That's my theory. I don't think there was ever that much forethought throughout all 3 movies.
I don't know. I don't really buy that.
Whereas, like,
I think it was just an example. I think it was just a reminder of his own, like, poor decisions, like, and kind of like I think it was more of like a hint at what he's going to become, right? Because of his rash decision making, because of his ego and like who he is as a character.
Whereas for me, I think Luke, though, specifically, he thinks he's stronger than he is, and that's when he goofs. That's when he messes up. To me, like, that's the problem I have with the prequels, because we have the sequels already laid out. The original trilogy already laid out. Everything happens in there happens because it has to line up with how the original trilogy are. That's just, especially episode 3 is really guilty of that, but there are things like that in episode 2 as well. Whereas, so for Anakin, again, it goes back to I think I've mentioned this in the previous ones about the prequels. Anakin is treated like a plot device more than a character. Obi-Wan is treated like a character. Yeah. Anakin is a plot device. Luke, he thinks he's all that. He thinks he's super cool. Even though, like, the way he tries to, like... We'll talk more about this probably in the next episode. But even when he, like, tries to, like, pick up Leia, like, the moves it's awkward and weird because they're siblings, but when you don't look at it from that way, it's still awkward because it's like he thinks he's being smooth, but he's just not. But, like, he thinks it's when he says, I am a Jedi Knight, and he decides he's like, I'm gonna go and, like, fight these guys, I'm gonna go and do this, like, and he always has conviction when he says, I am this thing. And then he's proven wrong. That he's not that yet. He seems to believe he's the legend before he becomes a legend. So that's where I see a lot of him.
I don't really get that out of his character. That's definitely not what I see. And that's fine. Like, stories can always, that's the nice thing about stories, we can always interpret it like in different ways, right? And like we all see things through different viewpoints too. And just to be clear, I wasn't calling Luke a Mary Sue by any means. Like, that character is not a Mary Sue. Like, he makes plenty of mistakes. Like, obviously episode 5 is like his biggest mistake, right? Like, and I don't think that
6
in episode 5, like, it wasn't born out of arrogance. It was born like trying to help his friends and stuff, right? But to face Vader was still, he still wasn't going to win that fight. He wasn't ready for
I
it.
still, a part of me still thinks though, like, while the Darth Vader in the tunnel scene was supposed to be like a whoa man, you're not ready. I think he kind of still took it as like, yeah, but I cut off his head. Like, yeah, I know it showed me that's what I could become. I get it. But like I still beat him in a fight and it's like, no, that wasn't actually Vader, Luke. That wasn't actually Vader. That was a
Yeah.
hallucination.
I don't know. I don't exactly
like-
see it that way. But like I think what it kind of implies to, like, going back to like the original, like, you know, episode 4 of the movie we are generally talking about. I just think it just goes to show, not necessarily that he's a Mary Sue, but like his natural affinity to the Force and how powerful he is, and even like how he's like bullseyeing Womp Rats back on, you know, back on Tatooine, and how he's this great pilot. Like, it's very much implied and showed in these different ways that
Well, and that's how
he
I
is
took
very
it.
much connected to the Force without actually being aware of it. And
That's
like
how I took it
just
with
that
Rey, too,
training
though.
with Obi-Wan kind of just like opens it up even, you know, more.
Well, and even he doesn't do anything exceptional. Like aside from blowing up the Death Star, like
I
he
know,
doesn't do anything
that's
super
the
crazy.
like that's the funny thing about the movie, right? Like, because he only trains with the probe droid, then the next thing he's got to blow up the Death Star using the Force. It's like, oh, well, okay, but like, you know, his whole history and stuff kind of, you know, comes back into that moment, like circles back into that moment. Like, it's not just the probe droid training on the Falcon, right? And then Death Star. You know, there's different elements and stuff that go into that as well.
No, exactly. And like to me, I think I just to kind of go back to what you said a bit earlier. I think Rey getting hate for being a Mary Sue is unwarranted because I saw the exact same thing. Like when Finn's getting dragged by the Rathtars and she like closes the right door that cuts off the arm. And she even admits she's like, that's lucky because she doesn't understand that there's a connection to the Force there.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand that. Like, to me, anything she could do, Anakin and Luke both could do as well.
Yeah, like piloting,
So-
and that, and that's what
and
they
in
were
the first
implying,
movie-
right?
In the first movie we ever saw with them. So to me, when people were like, oh, well, she couldn't do anything wrong, and like, well, people complain because Finn could go toe-to-toe with Kylo with a lightsaber, and it's like, okay, but like, what's your point? Like, I just assume both of them were Force sensitive. I
Like,
just kind of
especially at
assumed
that point, and they kind of imply that in episode 9, and then like, why would you even imply something like that in the last movie when you're not even gonna do anything with it? What a stupid
Well,
way!
that's-
And they didn't even say it outright. They're just like, we're just gonna slightly imply this a couple times, and that's a good character arc for somebody. Like, what?
They should have just had an episode 10. They should have just had an episode 10 and actually, like, I don't know, resolve plots in episode 9.
Just made things that make sense. But like, yeah, so it is, I guess, even confirmed later on that Finn, you know, is Force sensitive. But also you got to consider, like, especially in that film, like Kylo Ren got shot with like Chewbacca's blaster bolt.
The bowcaster, which they
Like,
took a
from
lot
the
of time, like,
bowcaster, which
they took a
literally
lot
in
of
that
time
whole
setting
film
up
was
how
blowing
powerful it
people
was.
away, you know, like off their feet, right? Like, so like Kylo Ren
Han-
isn't like
Han
fighting at
was
100%.
firing it.
And that's why even Rey, who's never held a lightsaber, could actually fight him and defeat him because he's already weakened. Like, he's not at 100%.
100%.
Like, if he would have been Kylo Ren from like Last Jedi in the throne room where he's like kicking the shit out of all those dudes, like Rey just would have got wrecked instantly. Like, it
But
would have
then
been
people, like-
game over. Like, Finn would have just got wrecked. Like, head chopped off. Done. Like, Chewbacca literally saved their lives, guy. That's the point.
Look, Chewbacca always saves people alive. I can't believe
Yeah,
we
he
haven't
does.
talked
He's
about
great.
Chewbacca this is the first time we mentioned Chewbacca, and it wasn't even in this movie. We're talking about him in episode 7, but
No,
like,
we talked about him in the
isn't
bar
he-
scene slightly, kind of, maybe a little bit.
barely. We
Barely.
didn't even mention it. But like, isn't he great in this movie? Isn't he
He's-
phenomenal?
Aren't all the characters just phenomenal? But like, yeah, like Chewbacca is pretty like.
Well, I
He
guess
is
he
the
really
one.
doesn't
He
get-
is the one character throughout, not the prequels because he was only in there in episode 3 for a little bit, but like I
Glorified
would say
cameo.
throughout like the original going into like the new trilogy, he's kind of like the one core character who has kept their character and their charm, right? That like came with them. Like we talked about 3PO already. We talked about R2. Like Chewbacca is the only real character who has kept like their complete charm of that character through it. Changed actors,
Oh,
but
the emotion too. Well, because even
well, yeah,
again, even how he is in episode 9 is still just like how he is in episode 4.
yeah,
Like,
like his character is consistent.
oh yeah. And he, like, I don't know, he's always been one of my favorites.
Chewie.
But I guess he really doesn't do, like, he's there, but he doesn't really start doing much until we get to the Death Star.
Yeah. Well,
like,
when
even
they
on
show
the
up,
ship-
there's
like,
not
on the
really too
ship-
much to do, though.
Yeah, because when he shows up, it's mostly talking between
It's the cantina scene.
Luke and them, and
yeah,
then
the
and then like there's
transport.
I guess there's the the short scene of the chess game scene where
Yeah.
it's just like he doesn't take kind to losing. Oh no, or he gets
No,
pretty
no
upset.
one's
Like,
no one's afraid of upsetting
Upsetting
a
a
droid.
droid.
Yeah, it's because droids don't rip your arms out of their sockets. Ah, I see. I would recommend letting the Wookiee win. Suggest.
Sorry, I'm yawning now.
I mean, Princess Leia is like really great in this like film too. Like I said before, like this is such a lightning in a bottle. Like that whole trilogy is a lightning in a bottle that they've been trying to capture again ever since, and they haven't been able to. Like they've had good, like there's still good Star Wars out there, but it's not like lightning in a bottle. I think the closest thing to it, like as far as like a sensational, like is honestly the Mandalorian, man. I think Mandalorian, like that first season when for Yoda, everyone found out there was a baby Yoda, and that became
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing. Like that entered into our like social, like just like the conversation, like the zeitgeist, right? Like just it completely integrated with our society and our culture, right?
Well, the
Like, I
closest
think
thing
that-
that happened, like the
I think
closest
that's
thing
the
that
closest thing to the original trilogy as far as like having like something that's like lightning in a bottle. Like you can't really capture it twice.
I think Star Wars related 100%.
that's what I mean.
Um,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like within Star Wars itself, because like the prequels weren't that lightning in the bottle. The sequels definitely weren't that lightning in the bottle.
they almost were, man.
Force Awakens came pretty
there
close.
there was so much hope,
Yeah,
and they just
yeah.
peed all
Force
over it,
Awakens came
basically.
really close. But like as
And,
far
like-
as like the trilogy.
Well, again, like because most people who you meet who watch Star Wars and like Star Wars, they have nothing but positive things to say about the original trilogy
Yeah.
and the Mandalorian. Everything
Yeah.
else, they're split on whether they like it or they hate it or anything like that.
And like I get like yeah, and some people might not like the Mandalorian either. I'm not saying everyone likes it, but I'm just saying like it is a commanding show as far as Star Wars goes. Like it is incredibly impactful and it connects in a way Star Wars hasn't connected in like such a long time. There's a couple games that were able to pull that off. Mainly Knights of the Old Republic was
Yeah.
one of those games that were able to pull it off, but majority don't. Like Star Wars is great, but like the potential of its greatness is rarely reached. Like throughout all the properties, the potential of its greatness is rarely reached. Like even if you look at the books, right?
There's a lot
There's
of
only
mediocre.
there's a lot of mediocre, and there's only a handful of books that are like become legendary, right? Like kind of reach that Star Wars status.
No,
Like the
Matt,
Thrawn
they're
trilogy.
all legends now. They're all
Well,
Star
yeah,
Wars legends.
technically, right? Star Wars legends, quote unquote. Damn it, Disney. But like the Thrawn trilogy, right? Like that's one of those trilogies that became elevated to that like just high level of quality and status.
So much so they
And-
brought Thrawn into Rebels, right? Like
Well,
they brought
exactly.
him.
Yeah, like he came from. So yeah, no, it's just one of those things where Star Wars isn't always like it has a lot of like great stuff, but it also has a lot of like just mediocre to okay stuff too, which is great. We love the universe, we love the galaxy, which makes it okay. But anyway, I kind of like I guess back to my main point was like Leia is also like just a fantastic character, especially in this film, right? Like she's so like she's smart, she's sassy, she doesn't she's not afraid of shit, and she's so loyal. Like her character, like she's willing to, you know, pretend to give away the plan. Like she still doesn't tell them the actual rebel base. You know what I mean? Like she's so loyal to the rebels. When her home planet is at risk, she's going to take a chance, roll the dice, and lie about where the rebel base actually is. Right? Like that just tells you
No,
so much
100%.
about her character and how brave she is. Like we're talking about strong female characters in film. She has to be one of like the first and most iconic of talking about a strong female character because there isn't too many, right? Like honestly, like there are more nowadays, and it's become a thing nowadays that people really gravitate to. But yeah, like a lot of times, women in the past in films are kind of they're the damsel or like they're just the hot chick or whatever, right? Like there's not so many of these strong female roles. But Princess Leia, like she was badass, man. Like she got rescued. Like they got her out of the cell, so technically maybe damsel in distress, but she wasn't like, "Oh, save me, boys." She blasts a hole in the garbage dump and like
First thing
jumps
she
through. Like she
says.
leads the way. You know what I mean? Like she has authority. She's
Well,
courageous. She's
I
bold.
was gonna I was gonna
Princess
correct you,
Leia
and then I
is
thought about it
amazing.
when this movie came out because I'm gonna be like, no, there was a lot of strong female characters like that, specifically in sci-fi and horror, but those all happened after 77. Like not all, there may have been like a couple before, but like
Yeah,
most of them happened after Leia.
yeah,
Because if you look at Ripley from Alien, that was 79. Even
yeah.
like Laurie from Halloween, 78. Like they're like a lot of those sci-fi and horror female badasses didn't actually happen until
And
after Star Wars. And like
yeah,
again,
and
I'm
like
probably wrong, but
and this is a time like yeah, I'm not saying like there was never ever one single like that's not what I'm saying.
more
But
happened after Leia.
with more happened after Leia, but also like again, this was before strong female in films was a thing, right? Like it wasn't like a thing. Like this was just a character choice, you know, they went with, um, which is a good character choice and a great character choice. But also nothing impacted the audience and the world and the movie industry like Star Wars, right? Like if you had strong females, let's say like you said, kind of in other sci-fi and other horror, that's still talking fringe. Like when you're talking about like the general movie going audience, like those are kind of a bit more
Yeah.
fringe things. Whereas Star Wars like completely blew the doors open and was everywhere. Like everybody saw Star Wars in the 70s. So for the first time, like for a lot of people going to the movies, a lot of girls, you had this like real strong female character and presence who wasn't just relying on the boys to save her, but was actually doing the saving and butt kicking as well as anyone else. Like it's just and again, like it's just she's just a great character. Like eh, the most admirable character for sure. Like if you're talking about like the first film, like Obi-Wan, he's old, he's had his time. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Luke, he's just some young farmer kid who's
Whiny
trying to
farm
figure
kid.
like he's trying to figure shit out, right? Like Han Solo's like a greasy smuggler, Chewbacca's Chewbacca, but like Leia, she is
She has a
like
cause.
she's the leader. She's the one with the cause, with the belief. She's the one driving everything forward. She kicked off the movie, and like that's everything kicked off because of Leia putting that the Death Star plans into R2. Like she started the film. She really is uh
She's the
yeah,
heart of the
one of
film,
those
man.
main pillars and hearts of the film. And obviously even when R2 and 3PO are with the others, we constantly go back to Leia, watching her get questioned, watching her get, you know, the implied torture she receives, watching her have to go face to face with Tarkin and watch her home be destroyed and still have the guts to stand up. And then when they bust her out, she's not just like, save me, guys. She's like, you guys suck. I'm going to deal with this situation by myself. You know, like,
I was just thinking about how impractical that torture droid is because, like, wouldn't it just be
just like
easier to have a stormtrooper with a syringe than like
yeah, like this
a
floating,
floating
ball.
ball?
Just like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure Vader could have done a better job by himself.
I
But
think I think that at the end of the day, man, it's exactly what you said. It's lightning. It's lightning in a bottle.
yeah.
It's 100% what it is.
But like that's again just what makes like the big three in that trilogy so special. Like Han Solo is so different from Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is so different from Princess Leia. You know what I mean? Like they're all heroes in their own rights, but they're just heroes in different ways. And like arguably Leia is the strongest out of them. Like
Yeah.
she's the one who believes the most in her cause. She's the one who
Well,
does
Luke's
not
just
falter. Like Han Solo is definitely like part of him was there for himself for a long time,
there
right?
for the money.
Luke's trying to figure out who he is and where he
Luke's
belongs and what
following
he's supposed to be.
he's following Obi-Wan's path. He's not following his own.
Like the Jedi's path. And like yeah, Leia's the one with the cause. She's the one who's the strongest. She's the one who keeps like everyone together and moving forward. And like episode 6, she's the one who like goes undercover and sneaks in and frees Han Solo out of Jabba's palace, right? Like, well, out of the carbonite. They're still stuck at the palace, which kind of didn't work out that great for them at the end. But like that's Leia, and she's
Nothing
the one
ever
who
works
killed
out
Jabba
good
the
for
Hutt,
them.
just like choked him to death. You fat slug bastard.
Yeah.
But no, I just like I don't know. And Carrie Fisher's performance was excellent, and it's so that's like another thing about the sequels that's just so unfortunate. It's like they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna use old footage from episode 7. I was like, that sucks. Like to me, that sucks. I would rather like Carrie Fisher is Princess Leia, but I would have rather them like recast with like another big name with like, you know, her kids, her family's blessing on like recasting and give the character like the proper arc she was supposed to have.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just like, oh, we only have this footage, so we have to build her scenes around the footage we have, right? Like, not actually like have scenes that she fits into organically, but like build the scenes around whatever footage we have and then kind of make it work, right? Whereas I would have just rather them recast so that her character could finish off her story. Because like again, episode 7, episode 8, she wasn't doing too much. You know, episode 9 was supposed to be her film. Solo got his film, Luke got his film. 9 was supposed to be hers, and like she just it's like it's sad that Carrie Fisher passed away, and then it's sad that her character never got to finish. You know, no one carried the baton for that character over the finish line. The finish line came too short for the character too, instead of finishing the character's journey.
When Family Guy gives a better send-off to Carrie Fisher than Star Wars does, there's a bit of a problem.
Like, it's just, and like, I know it's a sensitive thing, and what's exactly the right answer? What's the way to be the most respectful? To me, and this is just my opinion, like, everyone's going to have a different viewpoint and a different opinion on this, and that's fine. I'm not saying this is the one right and true only opinion. Everyone's going to feel differently about it. But yeah, I think like for me, if I was playing a role and I died, I would not want that role to just disappear. I would want that character to continue to live on, and I don't care if it's recast. Like, honor me by making this character that I like, by taking this character that I made so iconic and finishing their story. Don't cut their story short because I couldn't finish my life, or my life ended too soon. Finish my character's story. And I think that's like even for like Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. I know this isn't Star Wars, but it's a very similar situation. Like, what happens to Black Panther going forward? And I still carry the same view. I'm like, finish the character's story. Like, Chadwick is Black Panther, but like, you know, it's not like he's the only talented African American person or someone that the family could approve of the recasting. And finish the character's story, or don't. Like, they can go whatever way they want to. But obviously, they won't go the Leia way because that's way too much of a main character to work around that. But I just think what they did with Leia was not the best choice, and it just, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things about Episode 9 that weren't the best choice. But
the main problem with it, I find, at the end of the day, is it's the fans. It is the fan reaction to it. It's the idea that, oh, well, you can't recast Harrison Ford. You can't have another Indiana Jones because, well, it's only Harrison Ford. You can't do this thing because it's this person. And I personally, I think you can't. Like, I think that's the thing is...
No, you totally can, man.
Fans have kind of made it so the actor is more important than the character.
Yeah,
And like
exactly.
I
Or
think
like
as
this
long
person can only play this character.
like as long as someone here's the thing. So James Bond is a good example. As long as someone comes on board to play James Bond and they still play him as James Bond, then you're fine.
Yeah.
He still has to have certain mannerisms and certain like you couldn't have an American guy come on and play James Bond because
No,
it
no.
just wouldn't be the same. But you could have. Well, I mean, they've had how many British people play Batman and Superman now? They've had at least one. Now two, I guess, actually for Batman. But at the end of the day, is that character still going to be playing Batman and Bruce, or is that person going to be playing Batman and Bruce Wayne? Or are they going to do something that isn't entirely true to the character?
Mm-hmm.
As long as the character is there, as long as it is true to the source material, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah,
As long
exactly.
as it's true to the heart of the character, that's the main thing.
Like keep the character story going. Like, and especially with like Chadwick Boseman is one thing because like Black Panther is just getting started, right? Like, there's a whole lot of Black Panthers still left to go. So is it the worst thing in the world if it like changes into a different character or like Shuri takes up the mantle? No, like that's still an okay way to go. Like I don't have an issue with that either. But with Leia, it's like that was the end of her story. That was the end of her story that started in Star Wars Episode 4. Like that was the final kind of Leia arc and evolution going into the new trilogy. So to like drop it right at the finish line, that's the part
Right.
that like sucks, right? Like that's the part like you're already at the end. Carrie Fisher couldn't do it. Like she physically can't make it here. Like she's gone. Someone just push the character over the finish line. Give the character the send off the character deserves. And they didn't do it. Like she died whispering, and I was like, God. I mean, again, they used what footage they had,
But
but
should they have?
yes, there should have been so much more to her character and so much more she could have done. So it kind of bums me out that way. But no, like it's not a character. Honestly, when I talk about Star Wars, Princess Leia isn't a character that I talk about a lot. Usually I talk about like Obi-Wan or something because I'm like, oh my god, I love Obi-Wan. Like Ewan McGregor, he's so great. You know what I mean? Like, but but when you look at Princess Leia as a character, Carrie Fisher as an actress, you just like I just there's not words for it. I'm in awe. Like just the performance of it, the how the character is written, who she is as a character, um, is just one of the things that makes Star Wars Star Wars. Like it's just yeah, I'm in awe. I can't. I don't really
You're
have
at a
the
loss
words
for
for it.
words.
Like I am. Like when I really sit here and think about it, I'm like, wow, I'm lost for words, and like I'm sure Princess Leia means so much to so many people,
What like
and it's a shame she couldn't get her. The story couldn't be finished.
no completely. I don't think I have much more to add to that or much more to thought. That was very beautifully put, and I'm just yeah, I got nothing to add other than she probably first celebrity crush back in the day, but I mean like
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Crazy times.
you think it's time for your question of the day, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. We'll wrap up this episode, I guess, and we'll keep talking about Star Wars in the next part 2. You guys know the drill by now, but like we'll do a question of the day here quick just to wrap things up. Real nice and simple. I was gonna ask one question, then I'm like, wait, did I ask this question already? Honestly, I'm not even sure if I asked this question already or not. You'll have to tell me when I ask
Alright.
it. Because it's like I wrote a bunch of ones down like ways back when we first started, and now I'm like, damn it, did I actually ask this question in other Star Wars ones or not? I can't remember. And it's been a while since we did a Star Wars episode, um, so let's say you're a Jedi, you get to pick any color lightsaber you want. Which color would you pick?
I don't know if you've asked this or not. Now I feel also bad. Like I don't think so. I think we talked about like our favorite lightsaber design. But that was hilt more than
Yeah, see, I can't remember.
like. I feel like we talked about hilts more than we have like actual color.
And I'm like, I can't remember. I'm sorry if I asked this. The other one, I was like, oh, I feel like I asked this one too, but I'd have to literally go back and listen again.
Well, let's answer both. Maybe
I did not do
what's
that.
the second one? Let's answer both and then
Jedi or Sith?
Jedi. That's just me. That I can answer easily enough. Plus, you get to pick more colors of a lightsaber. Then
Yeah, that's true. You're not.
I'm not
like,
locked into
You're
red.
not isolated to just red, just locked in.
I want to be a Jedi with a red lightsaber.
And I feel like we answered that one because I feel like it started a conversation about gray Jedi, and then you're like, that's some bullshit. But like, who knows? We get to a lot of different topics, a lot of different ways. So I wasn't sure if that one got asked.
I mean, you're not wrong, and I still think that it is, but Jedi for me.
No, I feel like I want to be a Jedi, but then as soon as someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm a Sith, guys. That's it. Dark side, throw you off the road, man.
No, if someone cuts me off, I just pull up beside them and make them go home and rethink their lives.
Oh, dude, that's good revenge. Like, forget where you're going, go
Rethink
home.
your life.
They're just like, damn it, like, weren't you supposed to go to work? Oh my god, why am I
The
at
amount
home?
of people who would find out about secret
Go
affairs,
home, go to sleep. Yeah, no
ruin
shit.
someone's entire life.
Oh, man.
Lightsaber color though, I'm super torn on. It depends on my mood. Because
Yeah.
like
can hear that,
basic
sure.
blue is awesome. I love basic blue. But also green
Yeah,
is
it's the
really
classic,
cool.
right?
And green stands out because it doesn't happen a lot.
You know what? Green is totally underutilized in, the new trilogy. That's one thing. That's another one of my complaints.
But then there's purple. And I love me a purple lightsaber. Like the ones I want to like, it's funny because like the colors that I want to like because they are
Yeah.
unique or not in is like orange and yellow, and I think about that and I'm like, but do I really like orange and yellow lightsabers? No, I don't.
Just because they're not in like mainstream like too much, they are canon
Yep.
though. Orange and yellow are canon.
I like the
Like magenta and then like cyan or some kind of lighter blue is
I
technically
like the
canon
white
now.
lightsabers. I think those are really cool.
The dark saber, that's pretty slick.
But like honestly, green or purple. If I had to like pick one right now, it would be green or purple. Like blue is cool because again, that's just that. Like that's the lightsaber. But
Yeah.
like personally for me, it'd be green or purple.
Yeah, I think I would have to go with. Honestly, I might go with red. I think I'd still do red, not necessarily as like a Sith, but before Disney took over, definitely before. Maybe it was only by the time Episode 2 came around. There was for a long time like canon in books and in a couple games where it's like Jedi did have red lightsabers.
Yeah.
And I think it was like pre-episode 1 when the Sith returned. I think there was like a story reason why like they banned red lightsabers from the Jedi because of like they didn't want to like no one to be confused for anyone for a Sith, right? Like especially once they found out the Sith did return. It's like, yeah, maybe giving our people red lightsabers not a great plan. Like this is our only way to clearly figure out who's a Sith is what color their lightsaber is. But that was like old stuff before Disney came in. Now lightsaber crystals and everything, how it all works is completely different from how it used to be.
I want to say that
Completely
I want to
different.
say
but,
it was.
I would roll with red.
I want to say the red was originally synthetic crystals, and like that's still technically canon to a point, but it's also not.
Yeah, to a point. It's
there's-
like some
there's-
weird
yeah,
bleeding
like,
thing going on.
Pro-
like force
Prosser read
energies.
that to me once, and I just got mad. I'm just like, what do you mean they made the crystals bleed? What is this? What do you mean?
Yeah, it is strange. Yeah, whereas they're originally, I think there was some naturally occurring red, but the ones the Sith used were synthetic.
Because it was
crystals.
easier to manufacture them than try and like connect with one on a force
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, but no, I think I'd go red. If not red, I'd definitely go green. Like green
Got some Christmas
is-
colors up in here.
I just love green, man. Like, yeah, like, and of course, like, blue is just classic, right? Like, but it's almost like too classic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a simp. Blue is like the simp Star Wars color. I don't want to be a simp. I'm going green. Uh, but like, and that's kind of like my thing too with the new trilogy. It's like you only see Luke's green lightsaber for like 10 seconds in the
Yeah.
flashback of, in episode 8 and then slightly in episode 9.
Well, they
Which is like such a shame, man. Like I was really waiting in that movie too for like Luke to like whip out his green lightsaber and just wreck shop, man. I was so waiting for that, and I was kind of sad that
they
never
put
happened at
way
all.
too
but-
much emphasis on Anakin's lightsaber.
Right? That's like my whole that is one of the biggest things I'll talk about when we get to the new trilogy. I'm like, I've never seen any group of films have such a hard on for one lightsaber that never had any purpose
And with zero
or meaning,
explanation as to
ultimately,
how
at
it
the
came
end of the
back.
day. Yeah, no explanation how it came back, but like why it was connected to Rey in the first place and the significance of it, no meaning.
Because they're
at all,
dyads. Don't worry about
right?
it.
Like, it's shit. Yeah, but that doesn't even make that doesn't explain why Anakin's lightsaber would like be calling to her. Like, there's so many just dumb things. And then when it broke, I was like, cool. Now she's gonna take the crystal and create her own lightsaber. They're like,
She'd
no,
tape
we're
it
literally just gonna
together."
solder that bitch back together. For fuck's sakes. I was like, when that first trailer, I was in the hospital. My wife was in the hospital. It was getting ready just before my son was born, probably a couple of days. It was when that D23 was on. And I remember seeing the first episode 9 trailer, and the first shot is like the back of Rey and like pans down, and you see the lightsaber, and I'm like, those motherfuckers put it back together, son of a bitch. Well, and like it made like I thought, that lightsaber gets cut in half, she's gonna use her staff to create a new lightsaber, which she did at the end of 9. But why give a character her own lightsaber at the end?
Yeah,
of
why
the
not have it?
movie? That was just stupid. Like, stupid. Why not give her a new lightsaber at the beginning of the freaking movie, you morons? Like, but whatever. Just getting all upset about that. But I thought, she's going to use her staff and create a double blade lightsaber. Because that's kind of what they've been setting up the whole time. Why is she carrying a staff around? Like, episode 7, I was like, bro, by episode 9, she's going to have a double blade.
I was gonna say by episode
why
8.
else would you carry a staff around? Like, she's trained with a staff. She would be perfect for a Jedi with a double-bladed lightsaber. And then when, like, when the Skywalker one broke in half and she just had the pieces and the crystal, I was like, this is a done deal, man. Done deal. And then the trailer comes out. Oh no, we just taped that bitch back together. I was like, holy shit, son of a bitch, you guys. Let go of the lightsaber. It's not even significant anymore. Like, let it go.
They have
Drive
a
me
Disney
nuts,
movie
man.
about that.
And in Colin Trevorrow's episode 9, she was supposed to have a blue double blade lightsaber made from her staff. I was like, so that was the plan. That was probably the only plan. That was.
I
the
really
plan
need to read up
until
on
they
that.
changed the
I really
plan.
need to read. I've avoided reading anything about his Star Wars movie.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. His was like kind of weird. Like there was kind of like some pretty weird ideas and stuff going in there as well. So I'm not saying it would have been like a perfect movie, but the character work definitely seemed better though, and it definitely was not as messy as what we ended up getting. But it was a very different movie. But anyway, no, that was my question of the day. What lightsaber would you have?
Yeah,
I just feel like green is underutilized.
I like that we like,
man.
and that's what
Gotta
I
get the
that's what I
green in
feel
there.
too. That's why I love Qui-Gon getting a green lightsaber, and then for the rest of that trilogy, we never saw anybody with like there was a couple.
Other than Yoda and a couple random Jedi Masters.
And like, of course, Yoda has the green lightsaber. Ooh, yeah, it's because he's green. Oh,
Yeah, they should have gave him like a pink lightsaber or something, just real random.
why has there never been a pink lightsaber?
I think there is kind of a pinkish one. Well, I don't know. Mace Windu's is kind of pink in Geonosis. Like, it's a very light purple, and then in Revenge of the Sith, it's a very dark purple. I was like, oh, that works, but I guess lighting.
I guess so. The desert sun did something to it.
Yeah, just like turned it like a much brighter shade of purple. Like, watch it. Like, episode 2, he whips out a lightsaber and it's like a nice light, like it's a light purple.
Sam
It's like
Jackson saw it
not
and was
a-
like, "Nah, George, not like that."
Yeah, And then like and then episode 3, his blade is like dark, like it's a deep purple, right? Like it's a very different purple. But anyway,
Well, that's a good
that's
question
it.
of the
That's
day.
the question of the day. What kind of lightsaber would you guys have? That's the question.
Let us know.
And did you think that stupid lightsaber keep coming back in the new sequel trilogy was bullshit like me? Let me know.
Matt,
I've never seen a trilogy. I have such a hard on for like one thing. Like just let it go. Let it go. Move on, guys.
did the
Move
cold
on.
never bother you anyway, Matt?
Cold never bothered me anyway. Let it go.
So, Matt, where can the people find you? Aside
it
from in
go.
your icy castle.
Oh man. I had one other thing to say about it too, but I totally forgot. You can find me on Twitter at Storytellers4L. Stands for Storytellers for Life. I just hang out on there, do really random tweets. Nothing really of any significance. No one follows me because no one cares because I don't really go on there that much. But you can follow me there because I will get more active once my channel, Storytellers for Life, is up live, which is going to be happening pretty soon here. And it's great. We're, it's all about helping storytellers reignite their dreams, live their purpose, and tell their stories. So we're just going to have a really great time digging into different historical figures and storytellers and learning different skills. And as I learn stuff, you guys will learn stuff. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to build a great community together. So you can find that on YouTube, Storytellers for Life.
Awesome.
That's it.
Well,
But that lightsaber, like, come on, guys. Just
are you
God
gonna be okay,
damn
Matt?
it. No, you know what would have made sense is if, in the end of the day, Daisy Ridley, Rey, if she was actually like some sort of like genetic clone of like Luke Skywalker, because if they found the lightsaber, who's not to say someone found his hand? And like that would make sense why that lightsaber would actually like call out to her, is because she is not necessarily a Skywalker, but she is a Skywalker. That would have made way more sense.
Are you gonna be okay, Matt?
God damn that.
Did the movies hurt you?
Just let it go. Let it go. Where can the people find you?
You can find me find me on Instagram at Ethan R. Hill. You can also find me on YouTube at Ethan R. Hill. You can find my movie Damned Rights available for rental or buying on realhouse.org. But that's where you can find me at, and I don't really have much else going on. Just kind of taking things one day at a time. I've been painting records.
Wow,
I
exciting.
found
times.
some old school, like old records that are damaged, gonna get thrown out. So I've been painting on them. We'll see how that goes. Maybe that'll be
cool.
my next artistic endeavor. But
Slick.
So, that being said, that's the first part of our 2-part special on Star Wars Episode 4. I guess that's it, everybody. I'm Ethan R. Hill. With me, as always, is
Matt Black.
And we'll catch you guys next week.
So long.
Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.
And may the Force be with you.
Always. And let go of that lightsaber. I don't know. And don't forget about that goddamn lightsaber.